When Friedrich Nietzsche proclaimed God was dead, he did not do so with any joy. Nietzsche understood the consequences of the death of belief in God. These consequences were inadequate replacements to compensate for the loss of religious substructures. These were nihilism, the belief in nothing, and totalitarianism, the worship of the state. We saw the devastating effect of replacing these substructures through the 20th century with the most horrific bloodshed in human history. Carl Jung, in his book Ion, describes how religion arose out of the collective unconscious. For example, the desire for complete, total perfectionism, or enlightenment, was projected as the idea of Jesus Christ. He is the perfect human, which all Christians strive to be like. If more on this topic interests you, I would recommend Max Deratz's breakdown of Ion, which I will link in the description below. He also provides a very useful introduction to Jung's work. When that image of Christ is shattered and disregarded, the desire for perfection and enlightenment remains. But what replaces the image of Christ? Could it be celebrity worship, the worship of aesthetics, or the idea of the Übermensch? Maybe in future we will all come to worship the internet itself. After all, it knows all we know, and therefore is all-knowing. It is all around us, yet we cannot see it. It cannot be killed, and has completely changed how we live our lives. What better candidate for a replacement to God? If God is still dead, what religious substructures are we compensating for that we have lost? I think one of them could be divine judgment. Judgment and accountability is a common theme in religion. The simple idea that your actions will have consequences and you will be judged accordingly. We have eternal damnation in hell, reincarnation as something less than desirable, etc., etc. These are punishments if you commit wrongdoing, and not just temporary punishments, but they are something that is eternal. God is described as all-knowing. He sees all you do and knows your past. He knows everything you have done in secret, every lie you have told, every persona you have put on, and every shameful thought and fantasy in your head. No crime or transgression escapes him. When his divine being, holding us all accountable, is lost, what arises to take its place? We rely on other people to hold us accountable. We wish for judgment. We yearn for it. It is why people confess crimes, even if they were to get away with it. Transgressions are a weight on our being, and we need others to judge us for them. This desire for judgment can therefore be projected onto other people. Where have we seen this judgment? People playing God's role as judge, jury, and executioner in his absence. I believe this has manifested itself as cancel culture. If you haven't been living under a rock for 5 years, you've seen a plethora of people in the public eye having their past dragged up or private life exposed. A frequent trend with these situations is that judgment is passed far before all evidence is gathered. This leads to some rather embarrassing situations where people must expose parts of their private lives they do not wish to expose in order to prove themselves to be innocent of whatever it is they are being accused of. This is likely to the delight of the accuser. It's all down to our need for divine judgment that we lack projected onto another individual. The more we stray from a religious society, the more we as individuals take on the role of God for ourselves. However, so far attempts to emulate this figure has proven destructive. We have courts and trained professionals for a reason. We are not all-knowing, and to judge whether someone is guilty and work out what sentence suits them is subjective and a difficult process. It's obvious that cancel culture is a bad thing, but if it has taken root in our culture and our collective unconscious as a consequence, as I theorize, it will and has proven disastrous for people. But what use is knowing this? We can talk about doom forever. Humans have delighted in doing that since we were conscious. But what's the actual solution? What can you do as an individual against the onslaught of this? It's an old religious idea, but you do not have to subscribe to any doctrine to act it out. Drop your judgments about people. Opt for understanding. Know why it is they are that way. Learn from them, but do not judge. It is a gateway to prejudice and hatred. And you do not want this for yourself. All of that hatred will live there rent-free in your head, and you will never be able to let go. It will isolate you. I know my audience, and you all probably have some intellectual interest in something niche. Perhaps we assume our tastes are higher than others because of this. Maybe we enjoy something esoteric whilst judging others for watching something simple and easy. If you are following my line of thinking, I want you to do some homework. For a week, watch your judgments. When you look at people, listen to what your head says about them. Do you overhear them talk about something, and does your mind instantly turn to resentment? Watch yourself, because you really might be making yourself miserable. We call this in psychology shadow work. It is investigating the dark parts of ourselves that we have shut off and do not want to acknowledge, and integrating these into our personalities. It's a difficult process because these things are hard to acknowledge about ourselves. The following clip is an example of what happens when a person is shown their own reflection and they really do not like it.
I felt that Jung should tell me what I should do, whether I should write a book, whether I should get a divorce, what I should do. And he wouldn't. And so I got mad at him. And I said, why is everybody so mean to me? And he said, why are you so mean to everybody? So I stormed out. And you got what I said there. I said to him, why is everybody so mean to me? And he said, why are you so mean to everybody? That was the trigger point. I was gone for a year. And I wrote him, oh, I don't know. Every now and then I'd sit down at the typewriter and write him what a son of a bitch I thought he was. And how when I first got to Europe, everyone thought he was a charlatan. I thought he was too. And I didn't, he was the most conceited, vain man. And I really had a great time. And
you sent all these letters?
Sent the letters, of course I did. And I thought, I hope he drops dead of a stroke. And I felt very good. I just felt fine. When I can get mad, I can lose 5 pounds just by getting mad. It's just the adrenaline goes, and I just think, it's the opposite of poor little me. And I don't care. Let the world go and stuff it up. I don't care what happens to them. And then one morning I woke up, and I began to laugh. I thought, for God's sake, what's been going on here? What a jackass you. And suddenly I realized, sure, he really hit it. And so I phoned Miss Schmidt, Fräulein Schmidt, and asked if I could have an appointment. And she laughed and said, oh, yes, she said, Professor Jung told me to save some time for you. He thought you'd be calling shortly.
Fortunately, this woman had a revelation and was able to recognize her shadow. She saw traits in other people she disliked, but she did not realize these traits were part of her. It was only after accepting that she herself was just as bad as those she chastised, she could drop her judgments and see things with understanding, and drop her short-term hatred for Jung. When your head turns to something you dislike, it creates a negative feeling. That negative feeling can produce a domino effect, and too many negative feelings in a day is a bad day. If you're watching this and you are single, I'd assume that you are because you're taking advice from a 22-year-old on YouTube. And you think that you have a specific type, but can't seem to find the right person, and relationships don't seem to last. Maybe that's because what you assume to be your type isn't actually what you want. If you find your life to be miserable, maybe life isn't the problem. Maybe it's you. And maybe you're shutting out the things you need the most to sustain you through existence. So drop your judgments about people. Maybe you will find something or someone that changes who you are. And if not, you'll be wiser for the experience.